Call this meeting to order at 6:02. First order of business, approval of minutes to February 9th and 25th.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay, we have a motion to approve as printed.
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Appearance of interested citizens. Carol Durfler.
Good evening, Parks Board and staff. Thank you for letting us have this opportunity to speak to you tonight. I don't have a formal presentation. I just want to talk to you about the Palmacia Park. And I was at the meeting that you had with Meg last week. I think it was last week. And there was some discussion about, I don't know, I kind of got the feeling that you might consider it a throwaway park, and I really hope that that isn't in your mindset. There was a point in time, probably 7 years ago or so, that I kind of felt the same way, and I was just like, you know, what's it here for? Nothing's happening with it. As a neighborhood association, we hadn't taken a lot of interest in it. We had some other parks that we were kind of putting our energy into at that point. So as time goes by, and I only live around the corner from there, and made several trips down there, I just started looking at it and I thought, you know, it's close to the river. There's tons of birds down there. There's a huge osprey nest, which I actually can see from my house on the other side, across the neighborhood. And so then we started talking about, as a city, about infill and packing people in. And the more I think of it, and I'm thinking, you know, the denser the population we have, the less green space we have. Houses are built on postage stamp lots. There isn't a place for a kid, really, in some of those places to get out and really pitch a ball, for fear to go into the neighbor's yard or something, you know. So anyway, I'm here to advocate for trying to do some developing in that little I will call it a pocket park. There's a development over in Monmouth called Edwards Addition, and it's a front porch park. All the garages are in the back, and they have neighborhood pocket parks. And it's just green space. I shouldn't say just. It's a green space. It has a bench. It might have a swing. It might have monkey bars. There's no real big kids' toy, but there are things there, you know, on a small scale for the kids to play with. So it could be a neighborhood walk-in pocket park kind of thing. And if we look at the various things that are down there and expand on that, and one of them is the birding thing. The other is it's just a nice green space to have and to be able to look at the river. And that's my pitch for tonight for Palmacia Park.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Any questions?
Yeah, so Carol, thanks for always coming down and chat with us. I think one of the concerns has been the possible impact to those homeowners that live on that street as you access that park. Mm-hmm. So what I'd like to hear personally, and maybe the board feels the same, is from the West Kaiser Neighborhood Association perspective, talk to those folks and maybe see if they're willing to come have a conversation with the board about not necessarily an acceptance, but if we start to do more at that park, then the traffic is going to increase in front of their properties, and they're fairly, tucked away properties going up to there. Mm-hmm. Is that going to be something that what I don't want to create is a bunch more work for Robert and his folks, because now people are wanting to go there because we have a bench, we have more opportunities. I'd really like to kind of hear from them as well, right? Because yes, it is a city park, but we saw just with the construction of the Meadows Park that neighbors were now calling and complaining because now cars are parking in front of my house and that's my parking spot. Well, no, it's not. So kind of hearing some of those perspectives, I think would be helpful, just because yes, I would agree making it more comfortable for folks to go sit and just kind of relax and enjoy a sunset would be great, but at the same time, I don't want to make the neighborhood resentful of newer items down there.
I understand. And I have felt that in the past myself, that we have to be really respectful of those neighbors because it is a close, narrow thing. And number one, I wouldn't ever even consider expanding that parking lot. Number two, I think it needs to perhaps be, if we're going to do something there, identify it as a walk-in park. And on the
Well, but
I
even
know
that,
there's maps and descriptions and
Yeah.
things of each of the parks on the website. So, and the neighborhood kids are, quite a few of them already know that it's there. We were down there the other day and here comes three little girls, probably junior high age, and they went right down to the river. They knew, and they were agile enough. I would never in all this world attempt to do it. But right down the trail they went and had their feet in the river and nothing flat, But I agree. We have to be cognizant of the neighbors and how it would impact them.
well, I just think it'd be important from the West Kaiser perspective to engage those neighbors, understand that increased opportunity means increased foot traffic. When we get later into the year and we start seeing, summertime hours go till 9:30, people are out there watching the sunset, Robert doesn't need a bunch of phone calls about these dang kids watching the sunset and I'm trying to
Yeah.
watch my shows or go to sleep type
Yep.
thing. So
I got it.
thank you.
Hello, there we go. So I just wanted to say a couple things about Palmacia. So I was down there the other day and saw the same three girls walk down the trail. One of them slipped, fell into the river, and then they hiked back up. There was some sex toys that were ditched off to the side, some boxes of sex toys. There's a little lean-to on one of the major trees. Looked like somebody had been sleeping down there. There is absolutely zero signage from what I saw. So looking at things on a liability aspect, I think that park does need some attention on certain things. Most definitely some signage on how steep that hill is and the access to the river. That there is no lifeguard on duty. Just little things like that. But looking at the space, there's a little tiny orchard there. Looks like the remains of a garden, and from my understanding, the neighbors kind of caretake that for a long time. It looks like it hasn't had any tending in a long time. But I think that just from a little bit of time spent there, I think that it does need some attention on some levels. And however much, looking at the back of this agenda right here, it looks like Salem Audubon wants to recommend adding a bench and maybe help with that. I don't know. But we were talking about environmental studies and those kinds of things. That whole area before it's, shut off or not used or anything like that, maybe it should have some studies done to see what kind of wildlife is actually down there. So, yeah. Thank you.
And if it needs it, we can always schedule a project or something to kind of help out. I can coordinate with Robert on it, and I can engage the Watershed Council and see what we can do to do a little bit of work down there. But I think that collaborative conversation is going to be important to kind of move in that next step.
And just to clarify too, there were two signs actually. One is on a fence, an ordinance of no trespassing. I think that the private property owner put that up on his fence to keep people from climbing the fence and going into his property. The other one was a no dumping sign at the front of the park that is, you can barely read it. It's tipped back. So there was questions on who owns that land. The dike and then down all the way to the river's edge. So,
And it turned out that the city does.
Yes, Robert?
Was there not a park rules sign up front by the parking lot?
yes.
Okay, just want to make sure that's still there.
Right.
David, I have a question
Yes.
for Robert.
Okay.
Does the park extend all the way down to the river?
Yes.
Okay, because when I was monitoring that park, I didn't really know that. I thought it was just, the grass area.
Probably extends to low water.
Okay,
Wayne,
so,
you have a packet, I believe.
yeah, I've got it. I'm looking
And there's
at
the
I've got the map right
third
here.
page?
Yeah.
And it's interesting on that they had included a viewing bench or a viewing platform, which was the first thing I thought about. I thought, oh, you could just put a couple of viewing platforms. It'd be great for birders and being able to see out over the dike, because once you go down off the slope, and it flattens out there, you could actually have, what is that, cornhole game or something going on down there or whatever. But it's just, I think it's too valuable a place just to throw it away, just to let it go. I really think we need to tend to our green spaces and our river accesses and take care of them. So some of the board members are here from the West Kaiser Neighborhood Association, and I know that they want to speak also. So you don't have any more questions for me?
Nope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Caroline Onan?
Thank you. I did send an email today, forwarded the email from the president of Audubon about the possibility of a bench. It is a really good birding site, as you can see, 10 species and 95 birds in 15 minutes is pretty productive, especially for CBC, which was done in the middle of December. So I think if you went down there now, you'd see at least that many species and that many birds. So anything we can do, I think, in this day and age to preserve habitat for wildlife is worthwhile. I think if this park could focus on some native vegetation to encourage that kind of thing, it could become a nice little site for birding, and just if there were a bench there for people to view the river and the waterfowl that you can find. There's eagles, there's osprey, obviously, and lots of ducks and herons. So it's just something to think about, and I think that sort of site can be just as valuable as anything else this day and age. So thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Davis?
Hello, members of the board. My name's Jeff Davis. Pleasure to see you all. Councilwoman Smith. I don't have anything to say on this particular topic. Did anybody else want to speak about that park that had signed up?
I have Rhonda Rich and Kathy.
How about would it be all right if maybe I let them speak and then come back?
Okay.
If you prefer, okay.
Rhonda?
Good evening. My name's Rhonda Rich. I'm on the board of the West Kaiser Neighborhood Association. And just to give you all of my background, I know quite a few of you here, but I moved up on Larry Avenue, just next to Sunset Park in 1976, and when it was not much of anything. It was just a wooded area. I'm going to tell you first, I'm here kind of to promote Palmacia too. But that was just a wooded area. Daryl Richardson did a lot of work there over, 20 years or so, and Dave and Clint Holland, and that is a really nice park. And Wallace House Park wasn't much of a park back then either. We didn't have the play structure. I remember walking down there with my family, and we'd go out to the river and float down in our life jackets down to Sunset Park. So So these parks are, I know this area well. I have also, some of my background, I was elected president of the Neighborhood Association back in 2006 and was president for 10 years. So I've been really involved with the Neighborhood Association. I think I have a pretty good feel for, or advocating for the big thing is advocating for our parks. And I think Carol gave you a copy of the master plan, which you probably already know. But that was in 2008 when we had charrettes and we had a lot of input, which now we can't because of COVID, which is a shame that we're talking about the master plan and we couldn't do that because there was a lot of support at that time for this master plan. And I know you talk about, this park is, we've kind of put it on the back burner like, okay, well, is it going to amount to anything? It's kind of been talked about selling it. You can do that. So, okay, well, what can we do with this park? And so we met as a board and we've been talking about this for years. And maybe that park needs to have a purpose, which most parks do. And with the survey that you had, also river access was like one of the top 5 things that people wanted, and more natural areas. So we were encouraged actually by the survey that Meg presented that river access and natural areas was a high priority, and then also Palmacia was identified as one of the 5 parks that they would suggest, to my understanding, maybe to look at and doing some improvement. So that park is a walk-in park, kind of like Sunset, kind of like Willamette Manor Park. There is no parking there either. And what we have there is, and I think we've talked to Robert before about clearing off some trees down on the bank. I don't know about, trails identified there, but we did work as a neighborhood to clear off a trail at one time, and it just overgrows, and it's really hazardous down there, so I don't even know if you want to encourage people to go over the dike. But putting benches there or a platform where you could view the birds, people would just go over there, and we'd like to see just kind of a natural viewing area. And I was also thinking the dike is there, and that's really the only place that I think people can go to see what the dike is. And I think the dike has a lot of history. Kaiser has a lot of history with that dike, the reason it's there. And so maybe Kaiser Points of Interest would be also interested in, I know they have a flood plaque up at Kaiser Rapids. Maybe some kiosk there at the park would be interesting, that people could go and see the dike and, well, this is what's going to save Kaiser someday. So I think, we have asked, said that we would help out. We were always interested in helping out in the parks. I think as far as monetary wise, though, our neighborhood association, we're not fundraising, and we're not a source of monetary funds. So I would hope that, I know you have a master plan. Robert came and presented this to us a couple months ago. Well, maybe it was pre-COVID, last fall, I guess. Your 3 to 5 year plan goes up to 23, 24. So I don't know if you're looking at doing something in the next couple of years, kind of reworking the master plan, but I really would hope that you would consider Palmacia as one of the parks that would receive some improvement. I really see it as more of a neighborhood walk-in, but anybody could go down there. There's 2 parking places, I think. Go down there and sit there and view the birds. I don't know that deer come down there, but come down and also see the history of the dike. So just kind of.
So I think there's a couple blended themes. One, I don't think anybody on this board wants Palmacia to go away. I know I don't. I would imagine the rest of the board members don't. The 3 to 5 year plan really was an illustration of a lot of the operations and deferred maintenance issues that have been going on for a long time. I think there's some misunderstanding by some different folks that I've talked to that, well, you're doing all this in these parks and replacing structures and putting new structures in. Well, that is a direct function of materials that had failed and were past their life date. I think that the expectation would be moving forward with the master plan and with the parks fee to start looking at some of these things, improvements to Palmacia and things like that. Again, I'll echo that, we have the ability to do some projects. I'm looking at Kathy Lincoln because I know she'd be happy to drag her husband out there and do a bunch of plannings and stuff like that. So, we're still very much engaged in the volunteer process. So if this is something that we want to look at and there's a targeted agenda, keeping it small depending on the numbers of folks we can definitely look at that. But I get the sense that there's a bunch of discouragement that this is going away, and I don't think that, at least that's not my agenda, and I don't want to speak for the rest of the board.
Actually, I
But
felt kind of encouraged. I mean, I came to the 25th meeting and it was like, oh, Palmacia is being talked about. And I just think, okay, well, maybe it's brought to the surface now, and maybe we can start having some discussions of something happening down there, so we can give it a purpose of people to go. And as we all know, if you have good people going in for a good reason, you discourage the camps and whatever other unwanted activities are happening down there. So.
well, like I said, if there's a targeted project you all want to look at, I've gotten plenty of emails from Mrs. Lincoln and a bunch of other folks, and so we can talk about a small project.
Well, we appreciate what you did down at
before
Wallace
Robert and his
House.
crew can start to kind of dive into some of the bigger stuff. There's certainly small things that we can start to work on.
After seeing Wallace House Park, I felt pretty encouraged too.
Well, I don't know that we can
Actually-
get a piece of equipment like that. We might be
Well, no, you can't get it over the dike, but.
sewing
But it's
scissors and
encouraging.
maybe some nail trimmers or something.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Lincoln?
Thank you for having us here and for listening to all of our concerns. And kind of in a bigger context, as you're looking long-term at the parks, I hope you keep in mind, I'm sure you will, because that's why you're on the Parks Board, that as Kaiser gets more dense, open space is going to become more and more precious, and we need to keep it as open and green space. The parks that are developed now with the mowed and the sprayed are really nice too, but we also need the wild parts of our town. Where kids can climb on not only jungle gyms, but on trees and on stumps, which is really fun, explore and hide in little hidey holes. And that's kind of the nice thing about Palmacia and Wallace House Park, which is just down the street from where I live. And we love that lower part. Back when it was a jungle, we used to, actually in the winter, we could canoe among those trees, which was kind of cool. Now that it's cleared out, it actually makes it more inviting for more folks, but I'm concerned about getting it replanted with native plants so that it does still encourage the wildlife. And just saw something today, you may already know this, but the Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board is now offering a grant for restoration of riverfront property, of waterfront property. That grant application is due April 22nd. So, and it sounds like replanting lower part of Wallace House Park might qualify. So you might check that out. I don't know if you ever have tried those grants before, if you're familiar with them. I saw it on the Willamette Valley COG website today. Also, another park to look at as an example of what Wallace House Park might look like is Darrow Park over in Polk County, just north of West Salem, off of Wallace Road. There's a little park, there's a driveway or a parking lot right off the highway, and then you can walk down, and it's kind of the same elevation. It probably floods in the winter, but there are a lot of trails through there, and it's pretty wild and natural, but it gets a lot of foot traffic. So that's maybe an example of what Wallace House Park could look like in a couple of years if we try to develop. And we will volunteer to plant plants. Just call on us whenever you need us. But I just want to emphasize how important it is to have the open space and the undeveloped. We don't need more pavement, we need more trees. So, any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis.
Oh, I think, wait, actually,
Oh, well, that's the last,
yeah, well, I was gonna just talk to the point of Palmacia for a second,
Okay.
if that's all right.
that's fine.
I've spent a fair amount of time down there in the last week or so, and one of the things that like bothers me about that park is that there's a lot more of it than you get the impression of when you just drive up to it. I don't know that you can fix that because there's kind of an extremely stationary thing that's kind of the main problem for that. But it's also, it's unclear where, at least, you know, if you're just barely walking through it, it's unclear where the park begins and ends as far as like residences are concerned. If we're gonna do anything in that park, I would maybe like to see some clarity around, you know, what is a garden that belongs to the neighbors and what is actually the park. And if it's not belonging to the neighbors, then we, I don't know, do something with it. Because there's a lot of, like Matt mentioned, orchards that they're just like dead, dying trees that are just like in a row, and that space is effectively like unusable.
Right.
If you wanted to go in there and like have a picnic or something, that space is a useless line of trees that could be more green space that you could, you know, lay something out or put a picnic bench or something like that. And I think it's kind of nice, like a nice little like sheltered area, because there's houses and trees on both sides, and so there's not a lot of sound, there's not a lot of wind, and so it would be a nice place to spend some time. If there was any way you could, you know, do that and, you know, run around for a little bit without it being, you know, a hill and then just a bunch of random plants that are all in the way that are not doing anything and are not enjoyable to be around, in my opinion. So I don't know, I guess my point is, like, I would be interested in talking about doing something with it if it could be cleared up and made into a usable space. It's like kind of like a hodgepodge of different areas that aren't quite enough on their own, because there's pieces of it that are kind of in the way of something right next to it that could be useful. But yeah, I'll echo Matt's point that, the other Matt, I guess Matthew and Matt. Anyway, sorry. I'll echo his point that I may have made some comments a couple weeks ago at the meeting that may have sounded like I was against having that park anymore, but really I was just kind of brainstorming, throwing ideas at the wall, because I want to see the effort that we put into our parks really maximized and just get the most out of our parks that we can. And so if that means that Palmacia is going to be enjoyed because we put a little bit of effort into it, then we should. But if it's not going to be enjoyed, then we should take that effort and put it somewhere else that can really be enjoyed. I'm just want to maximize the enjoyment of the resources that we have in Keizer.
That's what I heard from you. I think it was like, we need to do something, or we need to make a decision. So I hear that, but I could see how that could have been misconstrued. Robert, is there a park access from that? Because the last time I went there, I remember the wall, and there wasn't really like a designated area to access the water. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's no formal area
Right.
that we say enter here. There's basically 2 or 3 social trails that have been semi-developed over the years that you can gain access down to the river, but they're not maintained well.
Yep.
Especially the closer you get down to where the flood water comes up, that washes out every year, deposits, you know, logs and all kinds of crazy stuff. So yeah, we have not, I mean, to be honest with you, we haven't even been able to have this conversation until recently. Right. So I think it's great that we are sitting here talking about what to do with Palmacia. pretty much every idea that's been thrown on the table has already been on the master plan
Right.
since 2008. I haven't heard a whole lot of new ideas on top of what we already have here. So, you know, I don't see a lot of changes that need to really take place to the master plan, short of just maybe keeping what we have and tweaking it a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, they're all great ideas. And thanks for the input tonight. It's been really valuable information.
So I
Yeah.
guess my question would be, because it sounds like we don't have it, so maybe for you, you know more of the history of why, but what are some of the barriers to getting some of this master plan going? The water access, those types of things, it just been other priorities or, okay.
Other priorities, yep. I think Matt really spoke to it. We've been trying to go around and replace
Yeah,
really
other structures.
old, aging
Right.
pieces of equipment that we own, and that's been top priority.
Yep.
And that's pretty much filled up our 3 to 5 year plan, if you will. And the timing of this master plan update is perfect because at the end of our 5-year plan, we're going to be looking at, okay, what's next?
Right.
And not to say we can't get to anything at Palma Cia before then, but that's really at the point that we're going to be looking beyond and say, where are we putting our resources now? We've updated Kaiser's parks, now what?
Okay.
So it's valuable information to have.
Yeah, and I think that this kind of conversation just goes to illustrate the planning phase for Robert as he looks beyond the initial 3 to 5 year plan, because what's happened at 3 to 5 year plan is going to add to his plate in terms of ongoing maintenance issues he's got to stay up on top of so we don't run into the same issues. But, you know, hearing these conversations from the neighborhood associations on various parks are going to help give Robert the opportunity to sort of chart that out. And I imagine probably at some point after the master plan, you're going to give us some kind of an illustration or a list similar to, you know, the 3 to 5 year deferred maintenance and operations thing to, okay, this is what we're looking at as targeted new areas and new projects, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So those parks that, and I agree 100% with what Dylan said last meeting, which was, you know, some of these are counted in the acreage in the total park lands, but really have no value. I mean, for lack of a better word, because it's just areas that Marion County said, here you go, when we incorporated. And it's like, up until this point, we've never been able to have a really good discussion about using the resources the city is given the Parks Department in order to take those things to the, even a first level, not even mention the next level, right? So it's all super exciting stuff.
So there isn't any issues with water access from that park?
No, other
That's
than
all-
just
other than
developing a
prioritization.
safe trail
Yep.
down there. And I think it'd be like great Eagle Scout project, something along those lines. And providing a path from the parking lot to the trailhead entry, you know, it gives defiance of where, you know, you go in here, you know, versus just being this grass area and a dike and a river wall that kind of says, don't go beyond.
Right.
Well, and like that park, kind of just because it is not really touched very much. It it kind of has it gives the impression of like not many people will pay attention to you here, and for that reason, like when I first moved to Kaiser or to where I live now in Kaiser, and I saw that there was a city park sign pointing to it. I was walking down and a neighbor said, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I guess there's a park down here." And he's like, "Well, it's a pot smoking park."
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if it were given some attention and it instead gave the impression to people like, "Oh, this is a place that's taken care of. This is the place that people will come to," there will be less undesirable discarded items. There will be less pot smoking going on in this park, you know? And I would love to see that. You know?
One, just if I can add one more thing, and I think I've said this before, but one of the largest challenges we face in that park is where it's positioned on the Willamette River. It is on a really sharp bend for the Willamette. It's almost a 90-degree bend. It's a soft bend, but it's a 90-degree bend on the Willamette River, and it sits right in the corner of the bend. And so every time the river floods, it deposits new debris and kind of messes up the lower landing, if you will, in one fashion or another. And we can't get equipment down there. It's just too steep. So it's hand cleanup, drag it out by hand, or haul it away on a boat. And none of that's very good to do when you're talking mounds of logs that are, I mean, I think one of them, you guys could tell me, 6-7 feet tall one year. It was a big mound of logs. That's just one of our big challenges over the dike. So,
David, I just want to make sure we catch
Yes, I was waiting for
that guy back there.
gentleman in the baseball cap. I can't tell who it is with the masks on.
Thank you for allowing me to come forward. My name is Gary Blake. I am part of the West Kaiser Neighborhood Association and one of the past presidents. First of all, I want to start off by congratulating the Parks Department for the good job that they're doing on most of the parks. I am really proud of so many of our parks and the work that has been done and the maintenance that's done there. I've lived down the street from Paul Mesilla for about 15 years now, and I'm about 4 houses away from it. And so because we've had neighborhood meetings and stuff like that, I've been hearing quite a bit from the residents, and the residents are starting to turn towards, would you just pull the signs down and just quit messing with that park? I mean, nobody's doing anything with it. I've volunteered to go down there and move the limbs and stuff that have fallen, pull them over into a stack. I'm trimming the edge of the curb area going down over the side to where you can actually travel through there. I had my daughter ride her bike back into there the other day, and she fell down in the bushes, and it was a mess. So anyway, I'm doing what I can to volunteer. Over the years, we've had a number of West Kaiser Neighborhood Association groups go into Paul Mesilla to help bring it together. But bottom line, what the communication now is becoming more of is just take the sign down and let's just leave that thing the way it is instead of having people come down here, because most of what happens is more negative than positive. People are, building little campsites and stuff down on the river, but maintenance-wise, we just don't get the kind of maintenance on that park that a lot of the other parks are getting. Like I said earlier, I really like the way the parks are being kept up, but Paul Mesilla is not in that same realm. The communication that I get, because I talk quite a bit with the people on my own street there, it has turned from, it's okay, to take the signs down and let's just leave the park down there and not worry about it being a draw for people who are walking by thinking, oh, let me go check this park out. Because I talk to a lot of people who are coming in and visiting the park, and as they're leaving, I'm saying, hey, what did you think of the park? And they say, was that a park down there? And so, they're going down there, but they're really not seeing much of a park. If we had something there, some seats, park benches, I don't think we need a barbecue or a bathroom or anything like that. We just need some reason for them to go sit down, enjoy being there, and eventually we'll be able to get to where they can go down on the side of the water or down towards the river and so on. It is a great opportunity for a beautiful park, but we just need to put some attention into it. And so the people on the street are feeding me with information about, we need to just close it or let's develop it. Let's make it something worth going to visit. And that, I just wanted to make sure that that was clear in everybody's mind. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to share.
Thank you.
So This is where the communication breakdown is a little bit frustrating to me, because I'm hearing from 4 individuals that say, we need to make this park great, which is great. And then, everybody supports it, but now you're coming up and saying, nobody supports it, we want to get rid of it. And it almost kind of feels like a little bit of an ultimatum, where it's like, you need to give us all this attention for this park, or we want it to go away. I want to reemphasize that over the last few years, Robert and his crew have done hundreds of thousands of dollars in work to things that were already established, that have already had long issues of maintenance and operation struggles, and a budget that was almost non-existent to accomplish those things. And so I would just really appreciate, A, I appreciate the information, but B, just a little bit of patience, right? Rome wasn't built in a day. It's going to take a little bit of time to organize some of this stuff and to get to a point where we can do some of these things. It starts with a plan, which I'm sure Robert already has some ideas on how we want to do this, but we can also, as I've mentioned more than a couple times, we can start with some little projects here and there. But I feel like we get a little bit of competing messages of support, but then we kind of want it to go away. And so I think hearing from some of those neighbors that live directly on that street and around that area would be really, really helpful, and have a whether it's unanimous voice on how they want to see it, or hear from everybody and say, if 3 out of 5 say we love it, and then 2 out of 5 say we don't like it, and then whatever else. I just think part of that is a communication gap, but it's going to take a little bit of time. I mean, Robert's got thousands of dollars in tree work that he's got to get done now as a result of the ice storm, and other priorities that pop up. And I think a lot of people here are sharing the passion of ultimately someday getting Palmacia to something better than what it is now. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It may not happen this year, but we can kind of get there. Right? It's just communication needs to be clear, and the expectation it just seems off, right? Maybe I'm the only one that thinks that, but I heard 2 different messages tonight.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay, let me think how I'm going to say this, because I thought about it for a minute. I just want to respond to you, Matt, that we don't expect that this is going to happen
Right.
overnight. It was just a little alarming when we heard and Dylan already talked about.
I fessed up
what
to it, yeah.
He fessed up, and there was somebody else that was talking about, oh God, we gotta, maybe we ought to get rid of this. And we're going, wait, screech, halt, put the brakes on. No, we don't want it to go away. Now, I think what Gary's saying is that the neighbors are a little frustrated. It's supposed to be a park, but it's not a park. And so they've just gone, oh, the hell with it, take the sign down. That's my understanding. And of course, we really would go and talk to the neighbors. You know that we're out there. We do door hangers of all kinds of things. And we certainly would include the neighbors when time came to say, hey, Parks is willing to do such and such. What do you think? If we just do this little bit of development. And we're certainly not going to go in there in the dark of night and plant a couple of tables and some platforms and walk away. I mean, we just don't do things like that. So I think that's what Gary was saying, that they're just kind of, well, oh, what the hell?
Right.
Excuse me. Take the sign down. So, there. Anything
Well,
else?
and if I misunderstood that, Gary, I didn't mean any offense. It's just, it kind of seemed like two different sides of the same coin. So.
Well, it is. It is kind of awkward, and it kind of is. It kind of is. They're kind of to that point. So,
Right. And I
anyway.
think we take pride in our parks. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
if the newspaper came to me right now and said, what park should we highlight as a model of Kaiser and what we do, Palmacia would not be the park that I would highlight, right? And I think to your point is that all parks we should be able to walk in and say, we are very proud of this park. And I think now is the time for us to really start looking at developing and figuring out what to do,
Right.
because this isn't the park that we want highlighted for our community.
No.
If a new member of the community came and that was the first park, I would be ashamed compared to the other parks, because they're very well cared for. And we, as a park board, I think we're here because we want to uphold that level of that expectation for our parks. So I totally hear what you're saying, and I think that we have some work to do. And there's some excuses that we have on the table, but there's also a lot of work ahead. And so I think that now we're taking that and taking little bits and making sure that it's doable and manageable. So,
Right.
and creating realistic timelines, because we can't do it this year or right now. So, yeah.
Just wanted to take the opportunity to not let it go away.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
The thing said, would it make sense to temporarily remove that sign just so that you know it's there, you go there and you use it? If you don't know it's there, you drive by it. Would that make any sense, or is that,
The Kaiser Park side?
well, yeah, that says, like you're talking about the sign, would it make sense to temporarily remove that to where, if you don't know it's a park, you don't go there and do what you're not supposed to do there?
And that's kind of almost what Dylan was saying in the last meeting, which was for some of these that are parks, but then there's nothing there, why are we still kind of, am I
Why are we
paraphrasing?
inviting them there?
Right.
Well, and I think there's two levels of that, because there's the sign that says this is a park, here are the rules, that kind of thing. And then there's like signs on the street that say there's a park in that direction.
It says City Park,
Yep.
one of those blue City Park things. And
And-
it's like,
There's a difference. It may be in the most cynical possible take that I'm certainly not accusing anyone of. If I had a park next door that I didn't have to worry about, it was just some extra space I could go into and it was kind of tucked away, I certainly wouldn't want other people to know about it and come down and just be looking around my house all the time.
Is that what you're tanning at, Dylan?
Right,
Is that what you're trying to say?
Like I said, I don't think anyone's necessarily saying that that's what they want, but like, sure, if it's tucked away and you hear, oh, like I can go over there, nobody can tell me to go away because it's a park, but it's by the river, I could dump stuff I don't want anymore down here if I'm, not following the rules. Maybe not pointing them that direction is good too. I don't know. I don't think it's great to tell people or to hide our parks.
Right.
Because they belong to all of us, and we should all deserve to know where they are and be able to enjoy them. But, yeah.
okay.
Sorry, Robert, I kind of stepped on your toes
It's
there.
okay.
Yes.
To answer your question, Clay, I think it's a little premature to say we're going to go take down the park sign that everybody's discussing.
Just temporarily, that's all.
I
it is.
understand.
Yeah.
Let's get through this master plan process and see where it leads, because if the number one goal through the entire master plan that everybody's input is improve river access, then I think improving river access at all parks that we can would be pretty high on the list. And that might go into play a lot faster than a lot of these other things that we could be doing. So from what I've read, trails, natural areas, river access is pretty high. I don't have the final numbers of everything, but it's looking like that's going to be pretty high on the list. Palmacia, up until today, pretty much has been treated very similar, I'll say, to Mike Whittam Park. It's kind of more of an undeveloped park. We have a master plan that we could do development at. We've not been able to accomplish that yet, but it's been treated more as an undeveloped park. Could that change? Absolutely, it could change. So, I don't know exactly why those signs were put up, other than to just alert the citizens of Keizer where some of our parks are that are hidden, that they were literally driving past
Right.
certain little streets. Meadows has one because everybody used to think Meadows Park was a private park.
Right.
Most of them know that it's not now, but I could ask the question, but I think let's just wait a few months and see where things land before we go diving down the road of take a couple signs down. So.
Any other, Wayne, did you have a comment?
Just a question on, do we have an idea of when the master plan is going to be completed?
Our goal is to have it completed by June. Yep.
And then from that, you roll out another 3 to 5 year plan?
Yes, it wouldn't be immediately, because we're still working within our 3 to 5 year plan, but we absolutely need a new plan by the time the 3 to 5 year plan is over, and we are approaching year 3 right now. So we still have about 2 more years of needs that we have to get done before we can really look at taking this master plan and putting a new plan into place. But we would absolutely be working on that based on all the input.
Okay. Mr. Davis?
Everybody hear me? Maybe not. Says don't touch, but I'm gonna, already breaking the rules. Chairman of the board, members of the board, Councilwoman Smith, city employees, my favorites. Hello, everyone. I'm here tonight to talk to you about a grant request that I apologize, you just received it. And that's primarily because I just was able to secure the monies for this request today at noon. And that came through the generous donation of Kaiser Rotary. And this grant request is to replace what would otherwise be, I'm going to get the term wrong here, let me look. I call it bark chips, but there's a fancier name for these.
Engineered wood fiber.
Yes, to replace the engineered wood fiber.
Oh my goodness.
That is currently and would be underneath 3 exercise areas in the parks with rubberized fall protection. And the reasoning behind that I've laid out here in the request, but primarily is to drive up accessibility, ADA accessibility, so trying to get rid of those uneven surfaces that can create a fall for people, and also something an individual can roll across if they wanted to, if they maybe had a wheelchair or something like that. In addition to that, the protection would, I think, provide more safety for people using the equipment. Now, I don't personally understand the way fall protection works, but intuitively, I think rubber full to the rim is probably more safe than engineered bark chips that may be sagging. And then finally, I don't know if anybody's had the experience of exercising outdoors in the rain on bark chips, but it's not as pleasant as it could be if it was a rubberized surface. So the project would be to install these surfaces at the 3 exercise locations that currently have wood chips, and to complete that by June. And so I'm asking for the board to match the funds that have been provided by the community. And also I want to mention that GR Morgan Construction, who's offered to do the project, has also generously donated $4,400 worth of materials for the project. Wow. And so I'm asking the board to match the donations from Kaiser Rotary and this GR Morgan, so to the tune of $14,000. And that's my request.
So procedurally, if we were to look at this, we'd have to suspend the rules, or we put off till next month, correct?
Which next month we have a parks tour. And that wouldn't leave Jeff a lot of time to get the project done. If we put it off till May, or you could vote at it, I guess, at next meeting.
We could do an action item at the park store. We've done that in the past, but.
Yeah, but it's not
Ti-
Right.
The timing, we're just really getting close to the end of the budget year. And we haven't had, just from my perspective, for whatever that's worth, I have not heard of any other matching grant projects that were coming forward that could be completed by June 30th.
By the fiscal, right?
Yeah.
What's the budget right now?
We have $14,000 left.
Oh,
Good.
so perfectly just.
Of 15,000. We've only had $1,000 spent.
How do we get around, getting around the rule?
Don't we just have to agree to suspend them?
Can we make them, okay?
You move to suspend the rules, the committee votes on it, and then you go ahead and address the project.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
So that second on the motion to suspend the rules?
Second, yeah.
Okay.
Rule breakers. That's it.
Now we have to vote on suspending,
Yeah.
right?
I don't think there's any discussion, right?
No.
Nope. All those in favor of suspending the rules, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The rules are suspended.
So, Mr. Chair, if I can ask a question of the
Yes.
applicant. Jeff, how much have you cumulatively in this project so far, what would you say the running value is of all your exercise equipment you put in and everything else?
Oh, I know that Kaiser Rotary at this point has donated, prior to this recent contribution, $25,000. And the Parks Board has generously also provided something like, I think it's $16,000. And then the labor and additional donations, I think we're north of $50,000.
50?
Yeah.
So we're talking a pretty significant, I mean, $80,000 to $90,000 investment so far.
It would be if we were to do this, yes.
Okay.
Sorry, this is just curiosity. You said currently wood chips are in place, and this would be news to me. The two, the one at Wallace House and the one at Kaiser Rapids, aren't yet filled in and done yet, right?
Yes, I said currently and would be.
Oh, okay, sorry, I just misheard that.
I
Right, so you're
appreciate
talking
clarification.
replacing the wood chips that are at the one at Claggett,
Yes,
and then in never doing that at the two that have yet to be filled in, and they would just start with this rubberized surfacing?
correct, yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I would like to point out one more thing that Jeff did not mention, and that is everywhere that we have wood chips, that requires maintenance hours on city staff. And also maintenance costs to provide additional wood chips when those wood chips start to break down. Our experience thus far with the rubberized fall protection is our maintenance costs have gone down to almost zero. We can basically take a backpack blower across it, clean it up, and you're good to go for a long, long time. It's very easy to pick the litter up. It doesn't get mixed in. So there are a lot of benefits from the maintenance standpoint of every site that we can eliminate wood chips. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay, if I may, I heard, and I don't have the data for this, so this may be just anecdotal, but I did hear that after there was the exchange from the engineered wood chips to the rubberized surface at Kaiser Rapids, there was a substantial increase in the amount of use of it throughout the year, which is really what we're going for here as well. You know, we don't want people to just exercise in the summer. We want them to be able to get their summer bodies ready before.
Right.
Or just exercise all year long.
So, first question is, what's the warranty duration on this? Because there's potentially some high impact to the surface. What's the, is this contractor, what are they giving you in terms of lifetime and warranty expectations for material?
That is a good question that I don't have the answer to. It is going to be, this is the same contractor that's provided other materials in the park, including the new surface at Claggett. Is that correct, Robert? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a known entity then, right?
Yeah, it's the exact same material that we have at the Big Toy and at Meadows, and the same material that's going in at Claggett. The Big Toy, yes, we've had a couple small issues with the Big Toy. It's mostly kids that get down on their hands and knees and find a little soft spot and start picking at it uncontrollably over and over and over. And I don't care, you can put a kid on anything and they will tear this carpet up right now if you give them enough time. It is easily repaired. They can make patches to it. So I'm not discrediting these workout stations, but I don't think there's any way these are going to see more foot traffic than the Big Toy. It just blows me away how much foot traffic goes through that play structure every day. And that surfacing is holding up quite well considering the amount of people that show up there day in and day out.
So one final question, in terms of the access, is it being poured at grade? Is there going to be a lip? What are we looking at in terms of, because ADA access to me says you go right from a path onto the surface.
Yeah, that's a great question. And if you recall, when we first started putting these exercise areas in the parks, we focused primarily on parks that already had infrastructure in place.
Right.
And essentially the concrete at each location has been a very nice cut in the pavement, or the asphalt has been done, and the concrete is poured level to the path at all of these locations so that they can seamlessly move right in. In addition to that, I wanted to add that a lot of these exercise areas were installed near other facilities so that people could, do more than one thing, like let their kids play while they exercise or encourage their kids to exercise with them, but also play.
Yes, Clay.
Thank you. Can you please remind us, so if this $14,000 isn't used by deadline, does it roll into the next? Or is it, what happens?
Great question. So in years past, before the parks fee was created, it would have disappeared. Technically, now that we have a parks fee, that's a designated fee, that money cannot just roll back into the general fund. So it could potentially be rolled forward into the next year's budget. But it would probably not just go right back into the grant program for additional grant money. It would be reallocated through our own budget for other projects.
So if I'm hearing you right then, so if we have $15,000, we've used 1,000, weird year, pandemic year, not a lot going on. Could there be a buildup of projects waiting for us once the next annuum hits for wanting these kind of contributions where we would want that additional funds, want those funds to be available? Or do you feel like 15,000 has always been plenty, we've never had issues with it, let's use it and we'll be fine next year?
I think that's an opinion thing, whether the 15,000 has always been plenty. We haven't exactly had large groups of people in here fighting over the money, but the money is generally well spent and almost always completely spent in that. June 30th. That's the final date that the money can be, the project has to be done by June 30th. Because of COVID last year, and because the amount of volunteers that were required to finish certain projects could not safely get together and finish projects, we allowed extensions. I mean, that was just the right thing to do, given the circumstances. But we're trying to get away from that as fast as possible. We don't want to continue saying COVID and keep extending if we don't have to.
Well, we typically see the youth projects towards the beginning of the summer a lot of times, because frankly, if it's anything construction, it's going to happen during construction season.
Yeah.
We're coming at the tail end of the fiscal year, which is a quarter away, and we're looking at a potential value of $90,000 or thereabouts, $80,000 to $90,000 in assets provided by local labor, local companies, Kaiser Rotary, and this group. And I think it's a win. When you consider the ADA access, I'm comforted knowing that you're going to have basically great access from the trail. I think it's a good project. I agree. We're not getting a lot of people chiming in saying, "Oh, we've got this, and this project." At least not under this fiscal year. And you're in a very considerable time crunch because you have to have it expended by the end of the fiscal, correct?
Yeah, the project would need to be complete by the end of the fiscal year, June 30th.
Right.
And July 1st, the board would have an additional $15,000 in this next year's budget that we are not planning on changing that number to reallocate to projects after July 1. And if you got somebody in June discussing a project that they wanted to start in July, it would be safe to start that conversation with them, knowing that money will be refilled.
So, okay, interesting.
Clay?
I thank you. I think it's important that we get the answer to the question on warranty, even though it would be just for these few stands that are going in, stations that are going in. I still think that's an important question, at least get an answer on.
Yeah.
If there is one, if there's not one, that's fine. Let's just find out what it is.
So for the surface, it should be a 1 year, no questions asked warranty. I'd have to go read the fine print again. Basically, what we're finding out is this product has about a 20-year life expectancy, depending on the usage. So, certain parks that maybe get half the use than other parks, obviously that product is probably going to last longer. The nice thing that we are finding with this product is, like I said, if you find an area of failure, it is easily repaired with additional rubber. For instance, if you go changing anything, At the Big Toy, we added shade sails, and we had to add these large beams installed 6 to 8 feet in the ground. And we were able to cut the rubber out, add the beams, which, by the way, we were able to get pretty heavy equipment across the rubber, across plywood sheeting, and then patch around the beams when we were done. It's not a perfect patch. You can tell the patch was made, but it still provides a good safety surface for the children that are using the product. So, you know, not only can you make a repair easily, but you can also change things and come back in and still be able to patch that area up in a very time. It's a 1-day closure, and it's reopened the following day.
Claire, are you concerned about like the cost that we would have to pay out in the future, or?
Matt asked the question, and I didn't feel like we had a solid answer on it, so I was following up on that. But secondly, if it fails year 2, I mean, these are fairly small areas we're talking about. We're not talking about big toy areas. We're talking, what, 4x4, 4x8, 8x8? What are we talking about?
20 by 20, I guess would be the average size.
Pad, with one of the pads? Okay.
Yeah.
It's decent size. It's just, you know, could be an ongoing cost if there was a defect in workmanship after the first year that didn't
Rob?
rear its ugly head.
Oh, wait, you asked permission first, go ahead.
So this is just an aesthetic thing. You got 3 different colors.
Yes. And that's, I did not get 3 different colors. The donation was for 3 different colors.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Is there a reason?
Yeah, because in their line of business, they have the ability to donate leftover material. And so that's what they've done.
I mean, I don't care what color it is.
Well, I know that Robert spent a lot of time with his color wheel and his palette picking out the ones for Claggett. I just want to make sure.
You joke, but the Claggett Creek one's going to be super cool looking, isn't it?
Right.
It's going to
I
have a
thought
blue
there was a
river.
color scheme with them though, because I was like, well, the blue at Claggett is probably going to be a great fit.
Right.
So, and then I was
Yeah.
going to ask the follow-up of, oh, how'd you choose the colors? And I thought you were going to give me some grand answer,
Wouldn't
but
that be nice?
I see how that is, so.
It's the most basic kind of answer.
Right.
It's because it's what I got for
Hey,
free.
I'm
I love
okay
it.
with that answer. I guess my question would, for you, Robert, to follow up on Clay, are you concerned about future costs? Because there's not like a set warranty other than it's got a lifetime of 20 years. You're not concerned about wear and tear and cost?
No, I'm actually finding that this product is saving us money. The more we install it, the less time we are dealing with wood chips, the more it is truly saving us money. Even though I know that in 20 years, we're going to have to go back to the drawing board at some of these areas and redo the surfacing in one fashion or another, it's still saving us lots of money in the meantime. And providing ADA access, which we were not doing before.
Right, okay.
Which I'm getting really good feedback from park users on.
So one final thought. Yeah. No, quit. So Jeff, I just want to say thanks. I mean, you guys have put an extraordinary amount of work in, getting these exercise equipment pieces put in, bringing a different perspective in terms of use of the parks. I fully support this project, and if the chair would like to entertain it, I'd like to make a motion.
Sure.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the grant as presented for the $14,000, recognizing, for $14,000.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the grant as written for $14,000. A second. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I want to also say that my enthusiasm for this is sky high, just like my enthusiasm for the initial infrastructure being put in is. I don't get to visit the one at Claggett because if I don't have to cross River Road, then I won't. So the other 2, I won't. And I am very excited for those to be completed and for it to be this surface. Like, I don't like to have to walk on bark chips either if I don't have to. And I'll probably use both of these and never have to walk on bark chips, and it's going to be great. So I'm really excited about it. I fully support it, and I really just appreciate the amount of work and effort and money that's being put into this to provide some really great facilities for people in Kaiser.
As somebody who raked tons of engineered wood fiber at the
Oh
Big
my
Toy,
gosh.
and as soon as I got done with the swings, the holes were back.
Great.
I really endorse this product.
I think we need to find somebody that knows how to do those epoxy, like wood chip vases or something and make one for Debbie. That's gonna have to happen.
We have to dump it in the wheelbarrows off a 5-yard loader though. You missed that, it was great. They lined up all these wheelbarrows and dumped the gravel in them. They hit the ground with about this much extra gravel.
We got to vote, Mr. Chair.
I guess we do. So, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion to accept the grant as written?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for your work.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you.
What color is this going to be?
Pardon?
What color is it going to be?
Yeah, so you're
It's in
going
the
to get
thing.
your pick.
As long as it's not green or brown, I'm fine.
There's a teal, isn't there?
Teal, tan, or black?
Yes, teal, tan, or black. It depends on location. I just want to say.
Shake it up, make a marble look.
I don't
You
think
could.
it works that way.
I do want to say that if we didn't have the community that we have, if we didn't have the caring people here and the people that are up here doing all the hard work, this wouldn't be possible, and I'm very much appreciative of the donation and all the time that you put in. It doesn't go unnoticed, so thank you.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Cool.
We need a board member to volunteer to review and grade the Little League Parks Management Proposal, March 16th to 21st. Anybody volunteer? Dylan?
I think I will volunteer, sure.
He says hesitantly.
And I didn't even hear the gun click. He's really good with that. So, anybody else want to volunteer? All those in favor of Dylan volunteering, say aye. Aye.
It's a volunteer.
You is what I wanted to say.
Yeah, everybody point at him, say. Parks report. Tanya Hamilton.
Bob Newton is looking great compared to what it looked like after the ice storm. I am so shocked about the damage that has happened to the trees. So I'm so grateful that City of Kaiser Parks Department has gotten that area looking way better. So nothing really new to report. When are we getting rubberized surfacing for that location? Isn't that in the master, or is that happening?
It is in the 3 to 5 year plan
right.
if we update that playground.
Perfect.
So, in the
Awesome.
near future.
And my children said that they want a new playground, so they said, when you go tonight, can you say that? I said, okay. And then Ryan J. Hill, I haven't been there for a while. The last time I rode through, it was during a weekend that there was sun, so the trashes were full, but then the next day I rode through, they were emptied. There isn't anything new to report that I'm aware of. The fountain obviously is an area that is we need to figure out, but nothing new to report.
Dylan.
Claggett Creek is closed.
Sure.
And Mike Wynnum is, I don't know, a place with a bunch of trees in it that had a bunch of falling happening. And Robert is and his team are doing a really great job at every park, and they just haven't made it to this one yet. So they, I'm sure, will be there eventually to clean it up. Luckily, it's not exactly the kind of park where people are like walking around under the trees all the time. So it hopefully won't be a big impact that you won't want to. There was some dude at the gardening area, I think probably just doing some pre-gardening season prep. He was like spraying some stuff, so that's sure to be a continued great place, but not much to say about it right now because there's no gardening going on.
David Loudon, Northridge. Well, it's still Northridge. Still haven't done anything with it. It is a problem child. And Chalmer Jones looks great after the cleanup. Dustin.
Not here.
Not here. Wayne.
I've got Clear Lake and Country Glen. Afraid I haven't been to either one of those parks in the last month. I've been recovering from surgery on my femur, so I haven't been able to go to my parks yet.
Excuses. All right. Staff report.
Yeah. Clear Lake, I'll just fill in for Wayne since he hasn't had time to get there. The grove of fir trees actually did quite well compared to a lot of other areas. Country Glen, however, we have a row of maple trees along the roadway that we've been dealing with limbs falling apart out of them for the last 5 years. And that ice storm pretty much finished those off, if you will. So the majority, I think, if not all of those trees are going to come out and we'll have to start over. That's just where that's at, unfortunately.
Nate, on the neighborhood side?
Yes. So.
And how the trees on the creek side do?
Hit and miss, but not too bad. Yeah. So, overall, the storm cleanup was the worst thing I've witnessed in my career here. And based on what I've seen, probably one of the worst ice storms we've experienced in the last 100 years, if not more. We have been working nonstop around the clock to clean up all of the city parks, including all public works staff, not just our park staff. And our team has done a great job. I do want to thank Salem Electric for allowing us to borrow their wood chipper and 5-yard dump truck that made our staff able to get in and remove a lot of this debris quickly. And we've been able to utilize the wood chips. We took some to Mike Whittam Garden. We've taken a lot down to Kaiser Rapids that we'll be using on our trails. So we're able to keep a lot of those chips on site, and we'll be coming up with creative ways to use them this summer. And then I also want to thank just various volunteers that have come out of the city and stepped forward and said we would like to help, clean up different parks at different times, big or small. It all adds up. Thank you very much to everybody who's stepped up and helped.
Are they coming out of the woodworks?
Literally coming out of the woodworks. Engineered woodworks. So all the parks are open except Claggett. Claggett, we actually have a contractor in there doing work right now to get rid of the trees. It's just so severe. Driving by it looks bad. Walking through looks even worse. So I'm hoping to have Claggett reopened by next week, depending on how fast that cleanup can go. We'll see. We'll probably have to reseed some areas. We'll be planting trees next year, replacing a lot of them that have died. And I see a lot of tree planting in our future. After this storm, I think back to all the trees we've planted in the last 10 years, and I'm thankful for all of them because we just lost a whole bunch of old trees. And thankfully, we do have some younger trees in a lot of our parks that are slowly maturing, but we'll definitely be planting more. Did all of the board, were you guys able to do your homework from MIG, or is there anybody that still needs to do that?
I still have to do mine.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Try to get that done in the next couple of days if possible. That would be great.
It's due. Tomorrow it's due. I do. Give it me a demerit. I'm holding myself accountable. Sorry.
Are you referring to the questionnaire? I just want to make sure there's something I didn't miss, because I was out of town in the last meeting.
Yeah, it was from the last meeting.
It's, Debbie just sent out a note. and
Yeah,
below there's a link.
okay, I think
Yeah. Okay.
Good job.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Oh, very good. Council liaison report.
Thank you, Chairman. Wow, I'm just really excited to be here. Thank you so much for all your heart and soul into these parks. I'm not gonna lie, the day after the ice storm, I was really concerned. I called the mayor the night of, and I said, I don't think this is gonna be good. And it really was way worse than what we had even imagined. That next morning, once it became somewhat safe to go look and see what was going on, I grabbed the mayor and I said, I'm gonna come get you and we're gonna go look. And I happened to drive by Claggett Creek Park, and it was heart-stopping to see the damage with the trees, and really realized that we probably had a major mess to clean up. But
it's been in the back of my mind, how in the world do you possibly clean up 19 parks with that kind of damage? So I thank you, and I really specifically thank our Public Works and our Parks Department, because you guys have just done an amazing job. And, you know, I drove to downtown Salem today, where my office is, and as I drove through downtown, there are still trees all over the place. They're just uprooted, they're broken, and it just really gave me that confidence in the city of Kaiser and the volunteers that do the work here. That, you know, when things come to Kaiser, people stand up. And I thank you all for that. The fact you're here on a weekday night talking about what we're going to do next. You know, the Palmacia thing, I had no idea. I literally, once I can walk fairly normally, because it sounds kind of scary to go down there, I'll put both boots on and go down and look. I had no idea. You know, 19 parks in a city of our size is just astounding. And to have a group of you all doing this work, I can't thank you enough. It's just an honor to be here, and I appreciate that. And I just know that, you know, the council is working very hard with this recovery piece, and we are working on making sure we get some FEMA money to assist in some of these cleanup processes that have come into play based on, you know, designating this as a state of emergency, which we did at the last council meeting. That then opens up FEMA funding to replace some of the money lost. So we're very aware of the situation, and we just thank all of you for all your work, because without you, none of this would be accomplished. So thank you so much.
We have to suspend the rules to vote on the next item. The meeting, person or virtual?
But actually, you could probably skip down, I mean, because if
Other
you're going to
business.
cancel the meeting.
Oh, that's right.
If
We
you're
have
going
a
to cancel
Parks
the meeting,
tour.
then you don't really need to worry, because the Parks tour is definitely going to be in person. And so then you might want to consider the April to May one and decide whether you want that in person or not.
Is this just a month-to-month thing that we decide whether they're in person or not?
It does not have to be month to month. I believe that council has decided to do theirs until they are instructed otherwise, to do them in person until authorities above them tell them they cannot. So we could do that same thing.
Any discussion on having them all in person? No?
In person's fine.
I think it works well. It's great to have folks come in and talk with us. You know, getting to have that engagement is helpful and very important.
I think so too.
So it might be a good idea, if you're going to do it that, like council did, to go ahead and make a motion.
So I'd like to make a motion to remain in person until such time as the higher authority says no. Does that cover it, Dave?
Motion to have in-person meetings until higher authority says we have to change. We had a second. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Sure.
Can we change our minds? Like, before a higher authority tells us to stop, can we say, actually, never mind, let's vote to go back and change our minds? Not that we will, I'm just, you know, hypothetically. Okay, cool.
Debbie says we can.
Except you, Dylan.
No, well, then never mind.
Never mind.
Well, and I think to add to that, if the option does have to come up and somebody absolutely does not feel comfortable coming in, there is the phone line option. So that's still an available resource for folks if they just simply don't feel comfortable coming in, which is a totally, yeah, we got a resource, so.
I will add that the phone option is also part of the emergency declaration.
Right.
Is not allowed once we get out of that emergency situation.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Right?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
So as far as canceling the next meeting.
Oh, yes, we need to cancel the next meeting. We're gonna have a parks tour. What day is the parks tour?
The Parks Tour is on Monday, and your normal meeting is the day after. Traditionally, the Parks Board, unless they've had some pressing business, has opted to cancel the day after.
Do we have anything from MIG or anything on your plate that's?
Do we have to vote on that too? Or not?
I think you can decide that by consent agenda.
Okay, so anybody want to meet the day after the parks tour?
Nope.
Nope. Next meeting is canceled, which we usually do anyway.
Yeah.
I think 1 year we kept it, but.
Oh, yeah, we had a Parks Board meeting, it took 15 minutes before.
I think we've done both.
I don't have that vote.
I think there was some parks fee business that
Yeah.
we had to like cover the next day or the day before or something.
Yes.
I think I remember Jim Taylor rolling his eyes like 15 times when we were talking about it.
Just because we did it on a picnic table at Kaiser Rapids Park. Any other business?
Oh, I was just gonna ask, what were the parks that we identified for the parks tour?
Great question.
I know we're meeting at the gazebo.
I have it written down.
I don't have it written down right this second.
And I don't have it with me. I know I have it on my computer.
Okay.
I think it's in the minutes too.
Yes.
I just don't have them printed.
I feel like it's Chalmers Jones in the skate park,
Yeah.
Northview.
We're gonna.
Yeah.
And-
I want to say was Claggett on there?
No, because it's under construction.
Right.
Wallace.
Wallace House,
Yeah.
That's right.
I believe was the
We're
third.
only doing 3.
That's 3,
Oh, okay.
basically.
Claggett was brought up. Was it we planned for the one in the fall then?
Yes,
Okay,
Claggett in
that
the
was
fall.
it.
Yep.
Any other business? Nope.
So with the park tour, I heard in the past that there was carpooling. And so with COVID,
Oh, yes, it's carpool. Well.
Probably shouldn't.
so
you
the
could-
plan I heard was to meet at the gazebo and then carpool, but with COVID,
It would be your choice.
okay.
If you had somebody you were comfortable driving with, you could, but most of the time, everybody goes by themselves.
I think carpool just means no provided transportation.
Caravan, we'll caravan.
Good presence in those neighborhoods.
I'm getting me and Dylan some walkie-talkies. Just kidding. So I do have something, Mr. Chair. So this Saturday is the, is it 13th, 12th? I don't know. It's the annual Kaiser Civic Center cleanup. It's a Rotary event hosted by, co-hosted by Clyde Creek Watershed Council. So we have lots of COVID protocols that are going to be in play. I'm driving Robert nuts with lots and lots of questions to make sure that we can do this safely and also still remain efficient and get 30 yards of debris filled up in the bin. Kickoff will be 9 o'clock, meaning we're going to start at 9. My hope is to have folks out there about 8:30 to start signing people up. We're asking groups to send one representative to do the waivers and get all that done, so we're not crowding around, creating a big issue. If you're going to come in a group, stay with your group. If you're going to come by yourself, we're going to find some project that you probably really don't like, but it's still necessary, like trash cleanup or something else, because we don't want to intermingle individuals into groups that, to create issues. Robert's gotten us, again, more resources to make this job a little bit easier. We're going to have hand washing stations with the sanitizer. We're going to have access to the porta potty over at Chalmers Jones. And as I understand it, one city resource for that, which will have kind of a guard for that and everything else like that to make sure we can keep it clean and do all that stuff. It's a big event. We're anticipating, we're hoping for anywhere from 50 to 80 folks to show up for it. Again, the groups are very helpful, stay in clusters, and don't absolutely minimize your exposure and stuff like that. So it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve as we sort of get things going and, spacing groups out as we're dumping debris and stuff like that. But it is a fun event. It's a lot of work. And we'll kick off, like I said, 9 o'clock, and we'll run till we're done with the goal of being complete before noon. And so this Saturday, get there at 8:30 to kind of sign up, kick off at 9 a.m. Got any questions, contact myself or Mark Callier. I'll be the on-site project manager for the day because Mr. Callier is like head of all things Rotary and is off playing Rotary on Saturday morning, so. And Jeff Davis is going to be there with me. No, he's not. He's busy.
And I believe at the council meeting, Councilor Kohler said that an area church is going to provide lunch to the volunteers when they finish working.
We are, yep, that's correct. Thank you, Debbie. I forgot about that. So we're going to be providing lunch, but I'm not going to let nobody eat until we're done. Because if you open it up, everybody takes off. It's just, there will be food, but you don't get it till I say so.
Smart.
Other business?
No, sir.
We stand adjourned at 7:30.
Nice.